What methods do you use to manage burnout? After dealing with difficult projects, either internally with agency demands or client relations, it can be frustrating. I find I can be demotivated at times when I feel that I'm met with multiple negative experiences back to back. I do my best to reframe and remind myself that this experience doesn't mean it will be the next. What activities do you partake or suggest that help bring you back to baseline?
Beautiful question. So I think of self-care and burnout and those strategies as being micro strategies, little ones, meso strategies, medium-sized ones, and macro strategies, big ones. And you want to think of micro as daily or weekly, meso is like maybe fortnightly or monthly, and then the bigger ones more like, okay, when am I taking my 2 weeks annual leave every 6 months? So I've got that break to look forward to. I think there's some mindset stuff to do, and then there's actually physically looking after the vessel, the mind and body. So looking after your adrenals, I think, is a really big one here. And how do we actually settle our adrenals? How do we actually work with our nervous system to make sure that it's actually in a really good space to operate and do creative work? And that might, look like a range of different physical and somatic stuff, as well as having a really good diet, maybe a naturopath or a nutritionist or someone like that. I went through a really big project at the start of the year, a very big side quest, and I basically got a lot of support on board to make sure that I could get through to election day. So I think there's a range of different things, again, depending on what's accessible. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but there's lots of little things like digital fasting. Like, are you actually supporting yourself not have massive cognitive overload from too much junk information? So as a general practice, I use an app called Freedom that locks me out of all of the fun stuff on my phone from 10 p.m. to 8:30 in the morning. So I don't even have to worry about kind of like checking any of that, because I can't get into it. Long weekends, sleep-ins, really kind of managing your time, which sounds so boring and dorky, but really we all only have 24 hours in the day. Yes, some people have more resources. Beyonce, probably doesn't have to fold her washing. So how can you kind of offload some of those things, especially when you're working to really clear deadlines? And then the debriefing thing, I think, is really important. Like, at the end of a project, I really like the 4 L's for debriefing. What did you like, loathe, long for, and learn? I'm sure lots of people have used the 4 L's before, but going through those processes so that you can almost tidy up that project, be complete on it, get your learnings, and then leapfrog into the next one. And hopefully you've got a little bit of a break in between. So that was my little
I like the 4 L's. I actually haven't heard of the 4 L's before. I've always heard the stop, start, continue, which is what you do at the end of a project, like a retro or something. But
right, yeah. What did you like? What did you loathe? What did you learn? What did you long for?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I do. I love that.
Cool.
Have you had to manage burnout, Jeremy?
Oh, personally, 100%. It's yeah. Do I think that one of the things that, for myself personally, that is what you were really talking about, Justin, in terms of managing the digital component, is just an overwhelming amount of communication channels and things to respond to, and notifications and meetings, and all of that stuff really adds to the mental load of the day. When a lot of people need clear space to think, and space to ideate and daydream, and when there's multiple projects on the dial, and everything's being scheduled by somebody else around you, you kind of have this sense of like everything being out of control. So I mean, the tactics that I have are very similar to what you're talking about, Justin. And is I tell people I manage, turn Slack off. Turn it off for 2 hours and do some work. It's okay. We don't have to be in communication all throughout the day. It's okay to sort of switch off, grab a pad and a pen, and just sit somewhere else, go and work, go for a walk, go and think, like all of that kind of stuff. I think the challenge is really just around the multiple projects and the back-to-back projects, and there's no buffer anymore. There's no overnight test. It's just all compressed into each other.
And yeah, I mean, I literally have a presentation that's called Slack Off, why you need to create space to be creative. The kind of little saying that's out there is that somebody in Shakespeare's time consumes as much information in their whole life as we do in a day.
Yeah.
It's like trying to play the newest version of Fortnite on a Commodore 64. The maths just doesn't work, and then we beat ourselves up because it's like, why can't I do a gazillion things and be creative and remember the milk on the way home and blah, blah, blah. So I think we're really, really hard on ourselves for what cognitively we have capacity to do. And unless we're being really strict about our boundaries of maker mode or manager mode, or however, there's a million ways to dice that, we literally are like just expecting too much from this. And this is still the most complex piece of technology on the planet, yet like we're really smashing it and expecting it to do more and more.
I think as managers as well, just like recognizing the signs of people's burnout. I mean, a lot of people will tell you straight away that they're feeling like they're having burnout, and that shouldn't be ignored. That shouldn't be sort of critiqued as but we're not busy. You can still have burnout without busyness, I think.
It's finding the brownout. So before the burnout, there's the brownout. I have young people, like teenagers in year 11 and 12, who say, I feel burnt out. Like, again, like how wild is that? And I think it speaks a lot more to society and like the bigger issues of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
How
Like we're
much
expected
time we spend at work.
Yeah, we're expected to be constantly busy, constantly on, constantly, like if you haven't got a side project or a job, 3 jobs or, whatever it might be, there's this kind of looking around as the expectation, a little bit like the expectation of, is my work as good as somebody else's? And then, guess what happens? You try and work even harder.
Yeah. And the urgency, right? So when everything's urgent, nothing is. Defining what's urgent to you. If you had an urgent family emergency, what would that be? Versus what is urgent for a client, and really kind of defining some of those things in your teams can be really powerful for then identifying boundaries to be able to then build in that right to disconnect, which I think is incredibly powerful and is showing huge productivity benefits.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay.